welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which we learn that everything we know is absolutely wrong. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Terrifying Thursday. Perhaps in more ways than one. But we're here to avoid all of that for now. Hope you're all doing well. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks for the latest in thinking from the fringes of academia and pseudo-academia and all types of epidemias. Epidemia? Oh, boy. Well, yes, as I said, the last 24, 48 hours has been a bit tense, huh? Different places in the world, some more than others. But we're here to bring a little levity into our lives, or at least a distraction, perhaps a mental athletics distraction. Hopefully so. As compared to last week's purported, moral exam, it turned into a nothing burger. Maybe we'll have that again here. I don't know. Also, as a note, I again tried to tweak my audio settings a bit, so if I'm louder and clearer, great. If I'm the same as always, well, that's fine too. But you let me know if anything has changed overmuch, and I will try to adjust as necessary. Anyway, that's all preamble. Who is joining me this evening to wander into the wonderful world of school? Yeah. Matt Barnes, hello. Tony Giff, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Shell D, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. Burgid, hello. Eric Peters, hello. Deco, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Megan Ring, hello. Ebony Williams, hello. J2021, hello. Pissed Off Shih Tzu, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody? Did I miss anybody? Mike R, hello, if I didn't already. So there you go. Anyway, what do we have in store for today? Well, after last week's sort of like disaster area of can you be too moral being effectively nothing, I thought, all right, well, how about education? I haven't done a TEDx directly on education for, I think, a little while. And I came across the title of this one, School is Obsolete. What's next? And I thought, oh, it is? I must have missed that part. But what really sealed the deal for me was in the thumbnail for the video itself, in the background, and you might have seen it on the thumbnail for this video, our speaker has prominently displayed on a little placard behind her, I am a disruptor. Now, either she is a weapon from Star Trek, or she fancies herself a quasi-internal activist. I'm not quite sure which. I'm sure we'll find out together. Let's see, a couple other notes. First off, up at the top of the chat box, if you take a look, there is a pinned comment from Keeverdam. Thank you, Keeverdam, for the GoFundMes for Shady Grin and his kitten, two friends of the show. They or people that they care about are in need of some help, so if you happen to have an opportunity to take a look at those and see if you can throw a couple of bucks their way, it would be appreciated, and they would appreciate it. Also, tonight's bingo card is B. B as in backpack. If you would like to join in on the weekly poll to decide what the bingo card will be for the show, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. Boy, I almost sound like I'm professional or something saying all this stuff. Anyway, all that being said, this talk clocks in at just under 15 minutes, so your classic TED Talk. One warning, the audio is what it is. I cleaned it up as much as I could. And two, it is a fixed camera presentation, so there's no action going on except from the speaker. And so I don't know if there's any edits in there, and if she does it for the whole 15 minutes without stopping, kudos to her, but anyway, just a warning ahead of time. Anyway, all that being said, also, Raziel, hello, and Chicago Mike, hello, and anybody else I might have missed, hello. All right. Let me know if you guys can hear this. I'll start off with a couple of seconds, and then we will proceed.
Growing up, I thought having good grades was what mattered the most to become a successful person.
Okay, growing up, you thought having good grades was what mattered the most to becoming a successful person. Well, I'd say that's a pretty skewed outlook. I know that a lot of people that I grew up with define their own self-worth by the grades that they got, but I also think that most of the time that sensibility was instilled in them by their parents, for better or worse, depending on the situation. But anyway, you guys hear that all right? Sounds good but loud. I can hear annoying lady sounds good. All right. Well, if it's loud, Mike R, I turned down the volume a bit. I don't know. Keeverdam, sure wish I wasn't working. Well, I wish you weren't working either, but here we are. But it'll be here. We'll be here whether you're working or not. Lexi Mad, say hi to me and Keeverdam. You think you're special or something? Jeez.
There was a lot of pressure in my community to succeed.
There's a lot of pressure in your community to succeed. Okay. I think most people want their kids to succeed in school. Or, what do you mean community?
The expectation for children was to earn not only A's, but A+ for every single course.
Well, yes, those are very high expectations. Realistic? I don't know. How did you do?
In fact, as a young person, there were only 3 career options available to me.
There are only 3 career options. Okay, well, just something else I didn't notice until now. She has 2 copies of The Disruptor's Playbook displayed behind her. I think she wants us to know that she's a disruptor. Whatever that means.
Doctor. Lawyer. Failure.
Doctor, lawyer, failure. Okay, well, I think we're far enough in. We can go to the bingo card real quick. Let's see. Let's go over it once, and we'll circle anything that we come across. Anecdote that probably never happened? No. Self-vilification or wretchedness? Not yet, but defining yourself by grades, we might get there. Systemic institutional? Possibly we'll get there. Weightless example? No. Word salad? No. Leaves out vital context? Not yet. Collectivizes own demographic? Not yet. White supremacy? No. A list? No. Privilege? No. Sales pitch for product or service? Not yet. Plays victim? Possibly, depending on where she goes with this story. Free space? We'll wait. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase? Not yet. Wage gap? No. Patriarchy? No. Feminism? No. Mind reading assumes motives? Not yet. Diversity, equity, and inclusion? Not yet. Marginalize marginalization? No. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason? Not yet. Childhood or family anecdote? Yes. When I was young. When I was young. All right, so circling that and free space, because by default. Contradicts own point or argument. Don't know what her point or argument is yet. Benevolent condescension. No. And microaggressions, unconscious bias. Not yet, if at all. So far we have free space, childhood or family anecdote. Let's go.
So, as an obedient daughter, I worked extremely hard to earn all the good grades because I didn't want to be perceived as a failure. I mean, who would?
A masochist? Someone who revels in, disgrace and shame. I mean, that's just one theory. But anyway, so this was primarily your parents and or your community putting pressure on you to get A's, but not just A's, A+. Otherwise, you couldn't be a doctor or a lawyer and you would be a failure. Okay, well, I'll admit that sounds rather unhealthy, but I guess it all depends on how you handle it or how your parents operated.
As a result, I became one of the hardest working students in all of my classes.
Okay. Let me guess. You ended up not liking that, or you got burnt out. I can imagine it's possible.
Indeed, I got all the A's possible,
okay.
And I even managed to get a few degrees. In fact, I got the terminal degree in my field of study. There are literally no more degrees after a PhD.
There's no more degrees after PhD in your field of study. What's your field of study?
From the outside, I was probably every teacher's parents' dream student.
But underneath the shiny facade, there was a dark underbelly waiting to come out. Next on True Hollywood Story. I almost got that.
But internally, I was collapsing.
Oh, you sound like an after-school special.
I felt paralyzed by the pressure to compete
Yeah.
and succeed.
Yeah.
The pressure was so intense that learning had become a chore.
And where was the pressure coming from? I mean, obviously from your parents and or community, but also from yourself. Okay?
And accumulation of points. School, as a result, had become a terrible cycle. Suffer, ace the exam, and repeat.
Suffer, ace the exam, and repeat. And also, it sounds like there's a baby in the background. Yes, if you have a family or you yourself focus specifically on academic achievement to fulfill the hole inside you or to evaluate your own self-worth, yeah, it's not a fun way to look at the world, is it? There has to be a balance.
I didn't realize how damaging this cycle was until I became a college professor.
You didn't realize how damaging that cycle was until you became Really? Really? It took you until you became a professor to realize that an entire life based on nothing but academic achievement and getting straight A's, A pluses, is not fun and or necessarily healthy? If you say so.
I started to see what I experienced as a student happening to my own undergraduate students in front of my eyes.
Is that what happened to you as a student, or is that what happened to you as a result of family and self-imposed pressure? I don't think simply being a student did that to you.
The stress, the obsession with grades, the lack of spark in most students' eyes.
Is this going to be an argument against the grading system? I've had it pitched to me before, so go ahead.
After observing this for more than 10 years in the classroom, I finally came to the conclusion. I was part of the problem.
Oh my God, you were part of the problem. Okay. How? How are you part of the problem? Simply by using a grading system? Is that it?
What I was doing as a college professor was simply perpetuating a broken education model.
All right. Describe for me the broken educational model, and then describe to me your preferred replacement model.
Even more so, I discovered the thing that everyone cares so much about, aka grade, has little to do with anyone's career or life success.
It all depends on the person. And it all depends on the value of that grade. I mean, if you hand out A's and B's willy-nilly without any sort of, structure, then they really don't mean anything. If you make your students earn those grades and you set, expectations that are understandable and reasonable, they might mean something. I mean, teacher to teacher, I had a completely different experience when getting a grade in one class or another. Some classes I felt like I just sailed through because the material was easy, or the teacher's grading practices were lax, or I don't know. And in some classes, I felt challenged by the teacher, and every time I got a good grade in something that I otherwise probably wouldn't be interested in, I saw it as an achievement. In high school, in my last year of high school, I had to take Algebra 2A. I hate math. I'm terrible at math. But my teacher was so good and so engaging with the subject matter, and I made sure to pay attention and take notes, that I got an A in that class, which boggled my mind and really impressed me because I knew it was something that I didn't want to do, but my teacher made me want to learn, and I wanted to succeed. So the grade in Algebra 2A versus a grade I got in some English class means more to me. It really, at least from my perspective, depends person to person, subject to subject, teacher to teacher. But proceed.
This may sound counterintuitive to you.
Well, it all depends.
But hear me out.
Okay.
Research has actually demonstrated an inverse relationship between grade point average and innovation orientation. What this means is that the higher the grade, the less likely a student is interested in innovation.
What do you mean by innovation? Okay, the higher the grade, the less likely the student is. Okay, you're going to need to define your terms for me. Give me an example of a student who innovates or does not innovate.
Besides hurting innovative intentions, studies have also shown that as students receive more formal schooling, they are actually becoming less curious and ask fewer questions in class.
The better that they do, they ask fewer questions in class. Well, here's a thought. Here's a thought. Have you ever considered the possibility, because I went through this myself, that if a student is not challenged in a class, if they just happen to exceed in succeeding, they could become bored? Right? I mean, for example, an example that happened to me, a personal example. In elementary school, and this isn't bragging, this is just fact, I was in the gifted class, the accelerated class, and by 6th grade, I was doing pre-algebra. And then when I moved to junior high, which was a different school that didn't carry over the program I was in elementary school, for whatever reason, and to this day I do not understand it, I was placed into what they called accelerated math, which isn't what you would think. It doesn't sound like it's advanced. Actually, what it was remedial math, effectively, or at least as compared to pre-algebra in 6th grade. So they actually threw me backwards. And so all of the advantages I might have had in learning pre-algebra in 6th grade between summertime and then when I got to 7th grade were effectively lost and diminished because they weren't continued in the class I had next. And so I languished in that class. I did very well in that class because it was all simple, but I was bored. And I liked math even less after that because it wasn't interesting anymore. As interesting as math can get for me. So is it possible that a lack of innovation with students that excel has more to do with not being challenged by any chance?
In fact, I saw what was suggested in all of those studies in my teaching career all the time. As a college professor of more than 10 years, the most commonly asked questions that I got were not necessarily intellectually stimulating questions related to what I was teaching in the classroom.
Is that the student's fault or is it the teacher's fault? Also, what do you teach? I still don't know.
But questions like this.
Okay.
Dr. I, will this be on the exam?
Uh-huh. Why do you think they do that? You start out the class. Here's what my teacher did. My teacher, like I had one of them. A teacher I had did this. He started out the class by saying, everything I talk about in this class could possibly end up on the exam. So I advise you all to pay attention every day. And that he would say that, I think, like every week or at the start of a new section after the last section. Like at the beginning of each section, he would say that once at the beginning of the day. And they'd just leave it because it was up to us to pay attention to what he was saying and study the material. And that was the challenge he put before us. And those of us that paid attention did well, and those that didn't. So, is it the students? Maybe you are the problem. Okay, well, maybe you are. So what's your solution?
Dr. I, if I don't do this, am I going to lose a point? Dr. I, could you please give us a template? Honestly, it felt quite miserable.
Yeah, I suppose it could feel very paint by numbers. All right. Okay, you know what? You might have convinced me. That a too predictable, fill-in-the-blank kind of way of teaching might not be the most productive. All right. Okay. So what's your proposal in opposition?
To be a teacher.
Yeah.
However, I want to make it very clear that this is not to blame our teachers or students. In fact, this is nobody's fault.
This is nobody's fault. Well, if you're finding something wrong with the way things are done, I'm assuming a human being somewhere is behind it.
What we see here is simply a product of an antiquated education system.
System? I'll take system. Systemic institutional. I'll take that one up on the board. Oh, actually, and self-vilification or wretchedness. She did say I was part of the problem. I should have circled that earlier. I apologize. Okay, so far on the board we have self-vilification or wretchedness, systemic institutional, free space, and childhood or family anecdote. If anything else pops up that I've missed, I'll make a good attempt to keep attention to the chat in case you guys are yelling at me about stuff I've missed. But I will review it all at the end regardless.
The system is obsolete.
Okay. And?
What needs to be fixed is not our teachers or students, but the system.
Okay.
The system is broken.
Yes, okay. You can say it a fourth time, and I'll still wait for you to tell me how and what the fix is.
Interestingly,
yes.
In contrast to the system's obsession with grades, academic achievement, new hiring trends are actually emerging.
Obsession with grades and academic achievement. Okay, well, what should it be obsessed with? How do you mark progress? How do you tell a student is either improving or not improving, or has a handle of the material or doesn't have a handle of the material? I mean, the system may be mechanical, and if you rely only on the system in your teaching style, then yeah, it could be very mechanical. That's why you, the teacher, are there to humanize the process and to provide guidance and use the grading system as a metric to measure progress and success. It's kind of a symbiotic thing. Yeah, okay. So if the system is broken, how is it broken? What's the fix?
More and more companies are devaluing the importance of grades.
Companies? Okay. Last I knew, companies just looked at whether you actually got your diploma or not, your certification or something. Do they look at, I suppose some might look at grades, but what?
For example,
yeah.
The head of people operations at Google shared in an interview with the New York Times that GPAs are worthless as a hiring criteria.
Yeah. It's about skills and experience and or applied knowledge. I'm trying to think. I've only been through a few job interviews in my life, but I am challenged to think of an instance where anything on the application or in the conversation I had with the interviewers ever brought up my GPA, like as a question directly or as something I was supposed to fill out.
And the test scores are worthless.
Well, they're test scores? What? Okay, again, I haven't interviewed at Google, so maybe they at Google, well, obviously they don't, but what employer is asking you for your school transcripts? specifically. Maybe I'm just living in a bubble. I've just never had anybody ask me for my GPA or ask me for test scores. They've asked what is the level of my education, right? Do I have a BA? Do I have an AA? Do I have a master's? In what and how? For how long? What?
In fact, 15 major companies no longer require college degrees in their hiring.
Okay, now that's a college degree is different than the granular nature of test scores. But okay, colleges don't require GPA, test scores, or necessarily having to have a degree. That's their prerogative. So, what? Just don't go to school? What's your alternative?
Including Google, IBM, and Starbucks.
Starbucks. Okay, well, gosh, I mean, if the top 15 companies don't require these things, well, heck, I don't need any of them to get a job in the real world then, because I am guaranteed to get a job with one of those 15. What?
Elon Musk even tweeted to work for Tesla. He doesn't even care if you graduate high school or not.
Well, Elon Musk doesn't really care if he actually hits any marks of predictions of his products releasing. So I don't think his standards for hiring really mean a whole heck of a lot to me. I'm still waiting for, the Hyperloop to take me from San Francisco to Las Vegas in 5 seconds.
In addition to this trend to devalue the importance of degrees and grades, industry sectors and companies are launching their own career certificates.
Okay, sure. If they want to test internally for what they need to fulfill the jobs they have, that's perfectly within their prerogative as well. On-the-job training, certification, testing, yeah. Does that make the discipline and the benefits of going to school completely unnecessary?
Last year, Google launched their own career certificates to replace the traditional 4-year college for several high-demand positions.
I don't care about Google. Google is not the end-all, be-all, if you don't know. And just because Google has the bandwidth and the money to be able to spend on internal certification, it doesn't mean every company does. This is not a good sales pitch so far, and I don't mean like a sales pitch for a product yet, but I mean, you're not convincing me that school is obsolete. Certain companies may not care about schooling anymore. That doesn't eliminate the value and need for education.
I predict it will only be a matter of time for other industry sectors and companies to catch up on this trend. The bottom line is no one cares about your grade.
No one cares about my grade. What if I do? Huh? What if I do? What if I go into a class covering a subject that I hate, but that I know I need to get through to graduate? And I ace a class that wasn't easy, but that I actually accomplished something and got an A in a class that I otherwise would have expected to get a C. What if that means something to me? What if that shows me that I can be challenged and succeed against my own self-doubt? What about that? If for no one else, what about me?
So here is the bigger question.
Mm-hmm.
If grades do not matter, what does matter?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Love, sweet love.
Here is what I discovered after working with more than 2,000 students over the course of the last 15 years.
Okay.
My biggest aha discovery was that school-based learning was only a small portion of what was needed to help a young person become career-ready life ready, and future ready.
You don't say. Oh my gosh, are you telling me that book learning alone isn't enough to survive on? Are you telling me that I actually have to like live in the world and interact with people and do things other than just be at school to be able to survive in the world and find a career and have a relationship and so on and so forth? Well, man alive. You know, I could only expect such a perspective from someone who spent no other time in their youth than working on academics. But hey, what do I know?
That's why I developed the Iceberg Model to help parents, students, and educators understand the missing links in the current education model and what we must supplement outside the classroom.
I developed the Iceberg Model. You know what? I've seen several Iceberg models before, but she's developed one of her own. And so for the sake of argument, I'm going to circle attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, because it's her Iceberg Model. So circling that one.
Through my own learning, I discovered 3 key factors to anyone's career and life success.
3? Oh boy, an official list. Oh my gosh, we're on a roll now, everybody. All right, circling a list. Oh boy, what are the 3 key factors that I can make my life better?
Those 3 factors include knowledge.
Knowledge? I need to have knowledge to succeed in life. Oh man, I am shocked.
Life literacy.
Life literacy. Oh, you mean like going outside? Okay.
And mindset.
Oh, wow, but my outlook, what I know, how I know it, and what I do with it. Oh.
Traditional schools only focus on academic knowledge.
As they probably should, honestly, as compared to what some teachers these days are attempting to do by turning their classrooms into little support groups and activist centers. But, you know, I did more than just book learning at school. I also met other kids and socialized and went to recess and had lunch with them and so on and so forth. And then we did things after school. You know, that's kind of the stuff that I had to do. I had to take the initiative. Now, I don't know if you were encouraged to do anything other than study when you were a kid, but a lot of us did do more than just academics at or as a result of school. I know it might seem odd.
Which is simply the tip of the iceberg to help a young person become career ready and life ready.
Yeah, you know who usually handles the below the knowledge part? You know who usually handles, on your model at least, the other stuff? It's called parents. It's called family. Called friends, etc. That's where that other stuff comes from. How you are shaped in your knowledge, what your mindset is on the world, and so on. Life literacy comes with interacting with others and what guidance you are provided by the adults in your life. Okay, am I just... okay, I know I'm being sarcastic and cynical as hell here, but am I completely off base that she's talking about this stuff as revelatory when it is as bare bones life experience as hopefully most kids have in their lives with decently healthy families and so on? Thank you, Chicago Mike. Knowing is half the battle. No, Mike, it's 1/3 of the iceberg. Aren't you paying attention in class, young man? Jeez.
What really keeps the iceberg afloat is life literacy and mindset.
All right, I'll bite. Where do you think kids should gain life literacy and mindset? From what source shall these magical concepts originate?
Life literacy consists of digital media literacy
What?
and 5 essential life skills.
Whoa, digital media literacy? Okay, well, I had a completely different definition of what life literacy was. Okay, now I am curious. All right, so digital media literacy I mean, I did IRC back in the day and went to many a sex chat room, so there was that, I suppose. All right, what are the other 5 elements that I need?
which are communication,
Communication. Uh-huh.
collaboration,
Okay, so being able to use your words, being able to share and work together as a team. Okay.
critical thinking,
I will agree there. More critical thinking is better than none.
creativity,
Well, it all depends on the individual and what they're creative about, but sure.
and creative problem solving.
Is that kind of parse and parcel with critical thinking? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But okay. Yes. Okay. I'll agree. Aside from the digital media literacy, why isn't, if that is part of it, why isn't that number 6 on your list? Okay. And where, again, shall I, attain these important skills that just aren't a part of being alive?
Digital media literacy
Yeah.
describes a student's ability to use social media to create and to effectively and creatively showcase a student's skills and expertise, and maybe even monetize them.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but social media is poison. I don't know if you paid attention in the last, 15 years or so specifically, thereabouts, but yeah, social media, that shit is poison. I think it'd be healthier for kids to grow and thrive in the absence of social media first. Learn how to live and assess themselves and the world and communicate and so on in something other than 240 characters a second or in 20-second clips on TikTok. That might just be my old fuddy-duddy self talking, but I think they might be healthier for the absence of social media. But here's the other thing too. Most of us, a lot of us, grew up without social media and turned out just fine, and I think possibly better for it. Are you sure you want to make social media the go-to showcase of a child's talents and creativity? Are you sure about that? And monetize it? Getting a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
Because if Google cannot find you, you do not exist.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, that was creepy. That was creepy. If Google cannot find you, you do not exist. Does our speaker work for Google by any chance? She's really selling Google and their model of hiring practice. Have you looked at Google's numbers in the last several years? Have you seen the scandals with their hiring results? At least a scandal for anybody who believes in DEI. But anyway, okay, tell me more about how if Google cannot find me, I don't exist.
We are entering today's show me economy. The 5 essential life skills are what our students need to become future leaders.
Yes, OnlyFans is very successful, isn't it? Oh, wait.
And those essential life skills simply cannot be developed by sitting in the classroom, taking exams, and regurgitating information.
You are correct. School is not the end-all be-all of one's life lessons. Who thought that? Aside from you. Whoever in their right mind thought that simply school alone was all one needed in order to learn how to live in the world? No reasonable thinking person ever thought that. What are you talking about?
They have to be cultivated in real life and through real life examples.
Am Am I taking crazy pills here? Seriously, am I living on another plane of existence? Have I jumped through the Vorpal warp? Do I have a companion in Rembrandt Brown over here somewhere, you know, and the slider's portal is going to open up and I'll go to a better dimension? Is this really news to you? Do you think it's news to us? Really? You are a disruptor. Well, you're disrupting something in my brain right now because I'm thinking, gosh, I guess I just lived in some kind of charmed existence where I didn't just live in the classroom. What?
There is a big difference between scoring an A in a communication course, for example, versus demonstrating excellent communication skills in real life.
You don't say.
Mindset is the engine driving the entire iceberg toward career success. Thousands of students that I have worked with in the past have the mentality that failures and mistakes are bad and should be avoided at all costs.
Okay, on that point, I will at least agree in principle, ahead of anything else you might say. Yes, failures are not fun. Mistakes are not happy unless you're Bob Ross. Yes, being completely destroyed by one failure or one mistake is not something that you want to encourage in people. It's true. You can learn more from mistakes oftentimes than you can from success. Okay. Encourage people to not see failures as the end-all, be-all of their lives. If you didn't get that A+, your life isn't ruined. I am on board with you in encouraging that kind of mindset. And my fingers are crossed that that's actually what you're suggesting and that the next 2 minutes of talking isn't going to make my brain melt again.
However, if you interview any successful person, they will tell you that rejections, failures, and mistakes were the stepping stones to their career success.
Yes. I think I got this much information off of a Hallmark card when I was about 9, so... Anything else?
So, if our students continue to have the mentality that failures and mistakes are bad and should be avoided, how can we expect them to have the resilience to become future leaders?
This is sounding awfully like the very beginning of that TEDx I did, 2 or 3 weeks ago now? Maybe more, time flies. We were talking about social emotional learning because the opening story that speaker gave was about a dying grandfather who wanted his grandchildren to never, or to always get up when they fall down, something like that. Which, again, isn't bad advice. And it's some of the most basic stuff you could possibly pass on to a person. So, I agree. I am but once again bewildered why our speaker is talking about it like it's some kind of novel idea.
We need to normalize failures. We need to normalize mistakes in the classroom.
Not normalize failures, but not let a failure discourage a student from working and trying again. How about normalizing recovery? How about normalizing work ethic? How about normalizing confidence? Self-confidence specifically. Normalizing failure, normalizing mistakes. I don't know. It doesn't quite ring true to my mind. It doesn't quite sound like a healthy way to look at things, but I don't know. Maybe it's just phrasing.
And even more so, we need to teach our students how to self-regulate when they do fail, when they do make a mistake.
Okay, in spirit, I agree with you. Yes, that is a very productive outlook to have if you can maintain it. You know, it sucks to fail, but you have to pick yourself up and keep on going. Yes, I agree. So of the 3 tiers of the iceberg so far, mindset is one that I am effectively on board the Titanic for.
Unfortunately, the current education system doesn't do that.
You know who does that? I know it's like, you know who does that? Teachers. If we're just talking about the educational system, you know who also does that? You know who also told me to pick myself up and not cry when I stub my toe or scrape my knee? My parents. So yeah, the system. Yeah, I can't imagine the system would. It would come down to human beings, wouldn't it?
Other than punishing failures and mistakes. However, our education model did do an excellent job in terms of labeling our students and perpetuating those labels through stratification and our outdated evaluation system.
Labels. Outdated evaluation system. Okay. Well, I'm having like flashes of several different TEDx's from the past come to mind as she's talking here. Labels, outdated education systems, pick yourself up, lack of mentioning of parents anywhere in here. Okay, then what do you suggest in the alternative to the current grading system? Or what labels are you referring to? Hit the button. Why didn't I hit the button? Hit the button.
Those labels tend to stay with our students for a long time and eventually become their identities.
Oh, is one of those labels the nickname Sunny? Those of you watching, remember that one?
Unfortunately, hardly any school curriculum teaches our students how to navigate through those labels.
Then what is your proposal?
By tapping into the power of neuroplasticity.
Tapping into the power of neuroplasticity. All right, well, you've got 3 minutes and 47 seconds left to dive into that one with us.
Neuroplasticity describes humans' ability to literally rewire our brain. As the word indicates, our brain is quite plastic.
It's fantastic. You can comb my hair, undress me everywhere. Sorry.
With the right tools and strategies, we can rewire our brain.
Re-educate? Oh, well, all right. Unlearn what you have learned. Okay. What tools and strategies would those be? I'm still waiting for you to tell us how you wish to replace the current system.
And remove those labels.
What labels? What labels? What are you talking about? I can imagine what you're talking about, but then I can imagine quite a bit. So what are you talking about?
And shift our mindset from a fixed one to a growth one.
What does that mean?
So, how can we best implement this revised education model?
That's what I've been wondering for the last 11 minutes and 35 seconds of your talk. What are you proposing?
I developed a 3-phase process to implement this model.
Oh, good. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to call that a sales pitch for product or service. This whole thing was a lead up. All right, so she's developed a 3-phase model on top of the 3-phase iceberg, even though this 3-phase thing comes in 4 parts. But okay, 3 phases: career and life readiness. I'll back up a little bit just because I cut her off.
A 3-phase process to implement this model and to help a young person become career ready and future ready and life ready.
Okay, so this process is going to help a young person. I Don't know what age group we're talking about, but okay, to become career ready, life ready, and something else ready.
The first phase is called preparation,
Uh-huh.
which involves unlearning old practices and beliefs that are no longer serving today's students.
Unlearning old practices and beliefs. All right, well, you must have some set list then of what is no longer necessary insofar as practices and beliefs. I would love to see this list. Are you going to give it to us?
The second phase
Obviously not.
is called creation,
Uh-huh.
which is the core of this roadmap that I'm going to dive deeper in a second.
You're going to dive deeper into your roadmap. You've got 2 minutes and 37 seconds to go. Okay.
The third phase is called acceleration, which combines a mastery of essential life skills and growth mindset.
Again, I have to ask, is there any role, is there any sort of supplementary material, let's say, that might be provided by, I don't know, parents, family, in any of this? And I'm really interested to know if she gives us a list of practices and beliefs that need to be unlearned.
So, let's talk about creation.
No, I want to talk about the first phase. I want to talk about the practices and beliefs that need to be unlearned. Creation's the second phase. I want to know what we're doing at the beginning of this thing. Chicago Mike, thank you again. Was this part of a 3-hour tour? Just sit right back and hear a tale of a naval ship. No, because it was a 4-part process. Sorry. Although I do feel as though we are stranded on an island of stagnation of ideas, if that helps.
I believe creation is the highest level of learning and the key to solving today's education problems and the key to preparing our students to become future ready and career ready.
That is a big pitch for a panacea. Okay, tell me how whatever creation means to you is going to do all of that.
Over the last several years, I have tested quite a number of creation-focused projects.
What constitutes a creation-focused project? I am also going to go to the card and circle leaves out vital context because I have a feeling that nowhere in here is she going to list off the practices and beliefs that need to be unlearned by today's youth. So
there's one project that is generating transformational change in my students.
Okay, tell me about this magical project.
It is an interview-based live streaming project.
An interview-based live streaming project? Well, I've got one of those of my own. It's called Familiar with the Matter. You can find that playlist on my YouTube channel. I haven't done another one of those lately. I probably should. I meant to. Just life kind of came in the way. So, okay. And how did this live streaming interview project, how is that going to solve all of the problems of education?
I have tested this project on hundreds of students and across a wide range of disciplines. The results are clear.
Yes.
This interview-based live streaming project is one of the best ways to help our students gain career clarity and develop essential life skills.
How? There's not enough time and you're not going to do it, but I would love to know how. Like, walk us through this project, how this thing is just the magic bullet for all of education's problems? A live streaming interview project. Interview of what? Like asking somebody about their life or trying to get a job or... I mean, from the title of your presentation, I have to assume that this one magical project is the thing that's going to replace school, right?
Like the 5 C's that we talked about before, which are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and creative problem solving.
Yes, we saw that before. How does any of that apply to your live streaming interview project, and how does your live streaming interview project solve these problems? Thank you, Tier Alexander, Prometheus Unchained. Scribe, did you see did you use an abacus, or was was this invented? What? Or was TI's invented? Okay, I must confess my ignorance if that is a term that I should recognize, but I don't. So I might be the dumb. Texas Instruments, maybe? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what the kids are calling them these days? No. What did I? Well, yeah. No, we had calculators. We had these cheesy, really cheap little, solar-powered calculators that the fluorescent lights of the classroom would power. That's about it. But yeah, Texas Instruments. I thought when I was a kid, when I had a Texas Instruments calculator, my mother at one point in her life had lived in Texas, so I thought that, because I was a kid, I thought that Texas was where calculators came from. I mean, the mind of a child, right? Okay. We're not going to get any answers, are we? Didn't think so.
Plus, this project involves our students using social media tools that they are already using.
To do what? And how does this replace school? We've gone 13 minutes and 43 seconds for you to finally tell us what the big surprise is that's supposed to replace and cure all of these problems and this broken system, and you won't tell us what it is, how it works, or how it does any of what you've said. You're a teacher, right?
However, this project flips the coin on social media.
How?
Instead of allowing social media to use our students, this project empowers our students to use social media.
Social media is still using your students. It is a self-perpetuating monster that needs the feeding of each participant. And
to serve their own career and professional needs.
How does the live streaming interview project serve their career and professional needs in this context? How does it replace and or reform the broken education system? This is your one major success story, and you will not tell us anything about it. Just that it does these things. Okay.
There's a big difference. Yeah. Plus, there's no better way to connect with our students than being on platforms that they already use.
Or you could talk to them. Or you could make an interesting and engaging classroom environment. Now, I know with the pandemic, that dynamic has changed drastically, and maybe it'll never be the same, but on the off chance that kids ever go back to the classroom full time again, maybe you could just be an engaging teacher in the classroom and humanize the learning process. You could learn from the robotic nature of your own childhood and improve upon it. Bring in the humanity to the process that seemed to be lacking in your own childhood. Maybe that. Because, I learned a heck of a lot from some really good teachers before there was social media.
There is a famous quote.
There's a famous cult? I know there is. It's called Jonestown.
Tell me, I forget.
What?
Teach me, I may remember. Involve me, and I learn.
Yeah.
Do you still remember the stuff that your teachers taught you last year or the year before? If you are like me and most learners, you probably don't remember.
It depends on the quality of the teacher and their engagement with the students and their mastery of the subject. Because I still remember stuff that my teacher in high school taught me about anthropology. I still remember stuff that my algebra teacher taught me in 12th grade. I still remember stuff that I learned in my logic class in community college. Okay, I still remember stuff that I learned in a class I took where it was like Bible as literature. And I'm not even religious because the teacher was engaging.
If we don't learn like this, why do we teach like this?
Okay. Every week I roll the dice. Sometimes comes up snake eyes. Okay, let's go on to the bingo card. What do we have so far? What we have so far is this. Let's go over it one more time by myself. And then if you guys have arguments for squares to be circled, I will entertain those after this last pass. Anecdote that probably never happened. She never gave us really any anecdotes of any substance that I could weigh one way or the other. It was just talk, I think. She talked about, in nebulous terms, her own growing up and childhood in school, and then abstracts about interactions she's had with students and results of tests or research. So I don't know that she ever gave us an anecdote, again, that has any details to it we could weigh. Weightless example. Weightless example. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. That whole iceberg chart, the life literacy thing, it didn't have any weight to it because it meant nothing. Digital media literacy, and then she lists off like the basic skills of just being alive. So if for nothing else, the second rung of her iceberg as a collective. Word salad. If Google cannot find you, you do not exist. Yeah, that classifies it for me. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh, I got to update the card. Sorry, I keep forgetting to refresh. There we go. Collectivize his own demographic. Did she say we as teachers? I mean, she kind of, teachers. All things considered, she was talking about teachers across the board. Or we as in the education system, teachers don't do this. Yeah, okay. White supremacy? No, she never brought up. Race or race conflicts or anything like that. Privilege? No. Plays victim. See, here's the thing. I think she was a victim of a far too strenuous and exacting upbringing. So I don't think she was playing that part. I don't think that she was, posturing for sympathy. I think that actually happened. So that's that. I don't feel like that's made up, if that makes sense. If you have an argument elsewise, let me know. Wage gap. Well, she brought up monetization of of your social media when you're still in, I assume, grade school or something, but I don't know if that constitutes citation of the wage gap. So no. Patriarchy. No, she never brought up gender dynamics or anything, which I was kind of surprised by. Feminism, likewise, no. Mind reading assumes motives. Yeah, assumes that no one has ever lived a life outside the classroom before. And also, again, where were the parents at all mentioned anywhere except in her own brief instance? She talked about community more than she talked about parents in her opening statement. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, I mean, I could see how someone could make an abstract argument for it, but I'm not going to circle it. Marginalization. No. I'm trying to think, because you did talk about kids who succeeded so much that they just didn't engage themselves. Does that count? I don't know if they're being marginalized, but I'll leave it. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Okay, was there a non sequitur in there? I mean, she made it a part of it, but I still don't understand what the whole digital media literacy thing was necessary for, because she didn't back it up with anything, right? I mean, she had a reason to put it in there, I guess, because her entire I'm hedging on that one. In the terms of the presentation, it was there for a reason, so I can't circle that one. If there's a better example, let me know. I'm not thinking of it. Contradicts own point or argument. Yeah, in not telling us what the solution was. The absence of a point contradicts the entire purpose of the talk and the promise thereof. That's what I'm circling that one for. Because that ticked me off. Like, not even when she gave us, like, this is the solution, she didn't even describe the solution. School is obsolete. What's next? Oh, here's this abstract thing that I do. Benevolent condescension. Yes. Talking as though everybody just lives in the classroom. Oh, what a novel idea this is. There's no other input that kids have in their lives. It doesn't happen. Microaggression and conscious bias. No. She never brought that up, and I'm challenged to think of a good replacement. So, that is where I'm at. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now. If you would please also tag me in your comments so I can see it more clearly, I would appreciate it. Scrolling up a little bit as I take in any other suggestions. Jaeger Pony, I propose the ice flow theory, where we take TEDx presenters like her and let them drift out to sea in the Arctic. You misspelled sea. Unless you're German, I think. Which you might be. Jaeger? Okay. Moving on. Tier Alexander, Prometheus Unchained. Scribelight, I am a figment of your imagination. Google doesn't recognize me, so I am not real. Are we having a Fight Club moment? Are you my Tyler Durden? No name. Did she mention equity? Always funny whenever someone brings that farce up. I do not believe she ever mentioned the word. Now, someone could conceivably argue to me that in aggregate she got to the notion of it, but not so far. Thank you, Mr. Ticketrunk. What is more frustrating, the talk or the card right now? Yeah, I know, right? That is the layer of gamble with what card we end up using, because we might have in another card we might have like 3 bingos right now, but oh yeah, it's just there are some blockers there. There's some showstoppers, and right now I need some really good arguments for some of those, like white supremacy. It'd have to be a miracle to get me on that one. Lexi Mads, I know it's not part of the talk beyond her selling her own services, but you need to see her LinkedIn. You will understand this entire talk. Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to take a look afterwards. I don't pre-research my speakers unless for some reason they're a known quantity in my life ahead of time. So I take them as they present themselves. Let's see, Mystery Scribelight. I'm going to make an unconventional argument to remove word salad. If Google can't find you, you don't exist is like me saying, if I can't fix it, it's not broke. You want me to remove a circle. Do you know how many times I have to go backwards now to do that? Okay, well, I will put it before the gallery, Mr. E. Everyone, if you agree with Mr. E... wait a second. Oh, he's already contradicted himself. Mr. E, on the other hand, bring word salad back, because at the end, that was a gobbledygook attempt at making her process make sense. Okay! Aha! Ha ha! You saved me the trouble. So thank you. Let's see. Eric Peters says, nope, she didn't do DEI. Yeah, strangely enough, she got close in some of the sentiments I've heard from, social emotional learning and other things, but no, not really. Tier Alexander, Scribelight, what did I ask you not to do? Don't talk about me in public. I have no idea what I just said. Okay, I'll give another minute or two here, but I don't see that we necessarily have any wiggle room on some of these. like I say, I could see some creative arguments for maybe 1 or 2 squares, but we might be out of luck on this one. Lots of squares circled, but no bingo. It has happened before. Yeah, no, I had a whole list of different TEDx's. Man, I had like 6 or 7 that I was debating over up until just yesterday, and then I came across this one, and the title alone, as they often do, caught my eye. But then I'm a disruptor in the background. And yeah, she has a disruptive style in that she disrupted any clear train of thought I was trying to have during the course of the thing. Mr. E says, don't forget the WTF circle. You are taking the place of Keeverdam, as she is currently at work. So thank you, Mr. E, for reminding me of that. I'll do that for sure here. And I will refresh that so I don't knock myself out of the show. Johnny Hellcat, I have no idea. I just got here and I'll have to catch the replay. Well, that's what it's there for. And Data Wasteland, Scribbler, I heard a new side to you tonight, Scribbles. That whispering was really powerful. Was it? Yes, I don't employ my ASMR talents very often. It increases the impact when it does happen. So, yeah. Lexi Mads, what do we need for a bingo? Well, you need 5 squares circled in a row. So, maybe this is your first time. Okay. Well, if there is no other arguments for squares to be circled, and I'm not seeing any, I'll give another second or two here, but in that meantime, I'll give some programming notes. First and foremost, thank you for joining me. Secondly, there will not be a Sunday stream this week. Instead, on Saturday, at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern Time, currently scheduled, on this channel, there will be a brand new episode of Movies You Should Have Watched with Ranting Monkey and myself as we review and reminisce over the 1991 classic Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, starring Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson. Yes, the 1991 classic. So, hope to see you guys there then for that. But in the absence of any other squares to be circled, I think that brings this episode of TED Excellence to a close. Everyone, thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something, or learned that you didn't learn anything, at least for the effort, or at least had your mind expanded to the limits of the presenter's pitch. If you'd like to have some more TED Excellence in your life, well, you can find all sorts of TED Excellences on my channel. There's a playlist there called TED Excellence, and there's plenty there. Once a week, Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I delve into off-brand TED Talks for the latest and cutting-edge thinking from people all over the place, around the world. And speaking of around the world, I hope everyone, all things considered, hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Thank you all for your participation. Those of you who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity, whether it was to me or to our friends pinned at the top of the chat box. I know that we all appreciate it. But with that, everyone, thank you for joining me again. Have a good rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.